If you ended up in here right now, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. You're in the right place at the right time with the right person. Okay? Now, let me tell you how I know that. First of all, who all caught my power talk? No, I didn't have one. I want you to see that. I didn't have one. And as a matter of fact, if you look in the book where my name is, there's no room number. So if you ended up in here right now, you're in the right place at the what? Right time with the what? Right person. Now here's what I'm going to do. This is set up very kind of formal classroom. That's not what we're going to do. Because this is going to be an exchange of ideas. It's going to be a what? Exchange of ideas. So what I like is kind of a circle, kind of a semicircle. So we're just going to adjust the chairs. Now here's the thing. When we share this information and get this exchange of ideas, it's going to take everyone. So I need everybody in participation mode. So a lot of times when we come for information, but I want to make sure you get not only information, but application as well, and then participation. Right? And so here's what we're going to do real quick is we're going to take the chairs, and the ones in the back, we're going to move those out of the way, and then we're going to kind of make a semicircle because I want everybody to be able to participate. Does that make sense? So let's do that quickly. I'm going to help out. Plus, I don't want anybody to feel like they're left out. Which way do you want to sit around circle? You can put them in a whole circle. You want to sit them out there. Top of the circle, side of the circle, bottom of the circle. Come on in and find the seat, and then we'll see where everybody's at. Yeah, that's good. That's good. If we got a double circle, that's good. That's good too. So as long as we're off. And so long as there's no empty spaces up front. And I'm going to tell you what, let me tell you why this is important. A lot of times, psychologically, we position ourselves out of the game. So, we think about VIP, and most of the time when we say VIP, we think very important person. Not the case, it's a very important position. And the position is the position that you put yourself in. And so in here today, I put in the manual that I was going to talk about the signature communication style. And I'm going to talk about that briefly. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to dispel some myths. I am not talking about anybody at the Power Networking Conference or anyone that's ever been to the Power Networking Conference. Does that make sense? I'm only talking about me. And there's some few people I know from some states away. I'm not here to promise you can be a 7-figure speaker. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to even say I can show you how to get to be a 7-figure speaker. You know why? Because when it comes to speaking, I haven't made 7 figures. Right? Have I made it in other areas? Yeah, but not in speaking. So if I haven't done it, I can't tell you I'm going to show you how to do it. So, y'all feel me? Yeah. Everybody say be real. Be real. I'm just in here to be real. But I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. If you feel like you have the desire to change somebody's life, that when you walk off the stage, somebody comes up to you and says, hey, what you said changed my life. I know I have the ability to help you do that. And you know why I think I believe that so strongly? Because I believe you are all called to do something. And so, and somebody said, when you walk in that flow, when you walk in that alignment, you get resources, you get doors open for you, you get things that happen for you that you never would have happened otherwise. And so, not too long ago, I got out my kindergarten report card. My mother had it, my kindergarten report card. There was couple things they said. Number one, my mom and dad tell the story all the time. They said that when I was in kindergarten, the teacher said, Reuben is an upstanding young man, and he is, anytime he makes a mistake, he's always the first person up to accept responsibility. He's the first person up. I did wrong. Give me my punishment. He's the first person up. And so my mom was like, you were like Noah way back then. You had integrity way back then. And I was thinking, well, I'd like to say something. When I was in kindergarten, they could not withhold our snack. So whether you were good or bad, they had to give you the snack. So they couldn't withhold it from anybody. They had to give it to you. And our snack was a popsicle. So sometimes we had the 2-stick popsicles, and sometimes we had the 1-stick popsicle, and sometimes it was the bomb pop with like a red, white, and blue, And so they could not withhold your snack. They couldn't withhold it. But what they did do is if you got in trouble, you got seconds. Everybody say seconds. Like on the clock, you got seconds. So they would turn on the hot water and you might have to hold it under for 5 seconds, or 10 seconds, or 20 seconds. But now you still got it, you just had to watch it go down the drain. Now the problem was, I was like, well, wait a minute. If you're first, the water's not hot. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So, be real. So what happened, I was like, teacher, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Let me go first. She's like, Reuben, thank you for accepting responsibility. And I'll and then when they first turn on the water's not hot. So I just knocked that little frost off of it. Now the people at the back, they're walking away with a red stick. You know what I'm saying? And that's really the key. So I noticed that. Now, number one, I want you to see how I engaged you with a story. You see that? Mm-hmm. So people tell stories sell. And so our job is to learn how do you incorporate the story into your signature speaking style. I'm going to get into that. That's number one. Number two, what the report card said was that the teacher had to ask the teacher had to ask me if I would sit down and stop talking so that she could start teaching, because all the kids were watching me and listening to me. And when I read that, it hit me in a way. Because way back then, I was speaking. Way back then, I was in front of people. Now, here's the funny thing. From kindergarten, everybody say kindergarten, all the way up to probably about 5 years ago, I met this nurse. Her name was Edwina Blackman. She was a nurse at Via Christi Regional Medical Center. If you get any of my books, if you see my surgical assistant textbook, they're all dedicated to Edwina Blackman. And when I was at the hospital, she would say, Reuben, there's something special. And I would be walking past her, I'm like, why did she say that? She said, Reuben, do you know you can start your own business? That when you talk, people listen to you. She would say it every day. And here's something else she said. She said, Reuben, you're one of the best workers we've ever had. And that's a good compliment, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Here's what she didn't know. At that time in my life, I had recently went through a divorce. And so I just wanted to keep busy. So I would take extra call, I would come in early, I would stay late, because I didn't want to have to go to a person and think about my children and wonder if they were thinking about me. And so I kept busy. She said, but Reuben, there's something special about it. And I didn't see it. And then she said, Reuben, you can talk to people. You can talk to people all over the world. She told me this. And I didn't see it. And then I remember one day thinking, what if she's right? See, what if she's right? And we're so programmed that we are typically, it's easier for us to listen to the negative things than when somebody tells us the positive thing, we discount it. So watch this. Everybody heard the scripture, train up a child and the way that they should go and when they'll, right? And so let me tell you what I think about this. It's very important, but I might give you a new twist on it. And the twist is, most people think when they say train them up in the way that they should go, they're thinking, like I have a son, his name is Robinson, they're thinking I should train Robinson in the way that he should go. And then when he's old, he won't depart from it. That makes sense, right? But what I believe is saying is, God created Robinson for something. And it's my job as the parent to figure out what he was created for and then train him up in that way. Can anybody deny that Michael Jackson was created for music? You can't deny that. And when he's old, did he depart from it? No. But if they never would have explored it, if they never would have watched it, if they never would have seen him move and dance, and then they said, go sit down, Michael. He said, no, but I'm supposed to. Go sit down, Michael. No, but I'm supposed to be up here. See, because he knew. In kindergarten, they knew. But I didn't know. And so when my parents said, hey, Ruben, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is what you're supposed to do, and they trained me in the way that they wanted me to go, and when a black man came along and said, Ruben, you can speak to people. George Bernard Shaw was asked at the end of his life, if you can come back as anyone throughout history, who would you like to come back as? And he said, I'd like to come back as the man I never was. Wow. Thank God Edwina helped me become the man that you see now. Because if she wouldn't have been persistent every day, Ruben, you can speak to people, you can start your own business, you can speak all over the world. I never would have saw it. You see? Because I was programmed different. That's why you have so many people who are in these professions. They're great people, they do great work, but inside they feel like, wait a minute, there's something that I was called to do, and this job isn't it. Because there is a disconnect, and when you've been disconnected for so long, the aching is still there, the yearning is still there, but you can't remember what it was that you were supposed to do. And so now you spend a lot of time searching. And if you don't search the right areas and the right times and the right places with the right people, then you miss it. But everybody say messenger. Messenger. But there were people who were created to be messenger. And you can't deny that Edwina Blackman was a messenger. She did not have to tell me every single day. There was no need for her to do that. But she was a messenger. And so now, when I spoke in Dubai just a few months ago, I sent her a card and some souvenirs from Dubai, and I said, Edwina, we were in Dubai. And when I was in Bahrain, I said, Edwina, we were in Bahrain. And when I was in London, I said, Edwina, me and you were in London. And then when I write in the books, I said, Edwina, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. Because she was a messenger. And what I believe, this is just what I believe I'm a messenger. And it's my job to help other messengers get their message out to change people's lives. Now, watch this. Anybody ever been to a restaurant, you thought it was a great restaurant, you told somebody about it? Did they pay you to do it? No. Anybody ever saw a movie and you thought, man, this movie was great, and you told somebody about it? Did they pay you to do it? No. If you're writing, write this down. Impact drives income. Impact drives income. My job is to help you be a more impactful speaker, and that will drive your income. My job is not to help you be an income-driven speaker, because I don't know how you get the income, but I do know how you make the impact. And what you got to realize is anytime somebody's bringing you in to speak in front of their audience, they're bringing you in to create an impact. And when they watch you, when they've seen you do your videos, when they watch you, they're really not watching you. They like you, but it's not you they're watching. They're watching the response of the audience. Because they're saying, man, if you give that audience that experience, if I bring you in, you're going to give what? My audience that experience. So our job is to create the experience for the audience, and then when you create the experience, you create the impact, and impact drives income. So now let's talk about how we do it. I believe there's 5 signature speaking styles. Number 1, the scientist. The scientist communicate, yes. She says she's a scientist. No, well, I love it. I'm going to ask that question. The scientists believe that basically their job is to give you the formula. The scientist gives you a formula, so they always have these formulas, these specific processes that you can use to achieve a specific result. And so if you're a scientist, that's the way you communicate. And here's the thing, if you're talking to a scientific person, you better be giving them a formula, right? Because that's what they're looking for. So now here's the 2 things you're doing. You're not only identifying who you are as a speaker, but you're also hearing what the other people need when you're speaking. Because everybody is not your speaking style. And you will have a primary and you'll have a secondary. Now, there's the teaching speaking style, the teacher speaking style. The teacher speaking style, they usually communicate with information. They usually have a PowerPoint, they usually have a whiteboard or some kind of something. And they have all of these props. And they need it because their job is to communicate information to you. And they believe that at the end of your presentation, if you're informed, then they've done their job. The scientists believe that if at the end of their presentation, if you have the right formula, they've done their job. Anybody believe they're a scientist? Scientific speaking style? What about a teaching speaking style? Right? Okay, perfect. Here's another way you know. The teacher speaking style and the scientific speaking style, they're not on the fly. They're not, hey, somebody wants you to come out and do a presentation right now. What do they want me to talk about? What do they want me to say? They're not the, okay, let me go do it. They're like, wait a minute, I got to prepare. Right? They want to be prepared. They're not trying to jump up and run out there. They're like, well, if somebody wants to meet with you, what do they want to meet about? I got to be ready. Right? Now, there's a comedic speaking style, and the comedic speaking style believes that sometimes we take life too seriously, and that if it can just lighten the mood, lighten the load, and you didn't take life so seriously, then it wouldn't be so difficult to deal with the things that you're dealing with. So their job is to lighten the mood through humor and laughter. And another thing is, it's very inconsistent to make someone laugh and then they not laugh. Like no one has ever said, man, they crack me up, they're so funny, but I can't stand them. That was never said by anybody. And so, Saucony Prince back there, he's the scientific, he is the comedian speaking style. Remember I said you have a primary and a what? Secondary. So you heard, if you heard Miss Emma Fraser Pendleton on the stage, she is indeed a teacher, and that's her Harvard knowledge, but she's also a comedian, isn't she? So she has, that's a perfect balance, it's a perfect element. Number one, she wants you to get the right information, but at the same time, she wants you to be entertained. Because people can only ingest so much information at a time, and then they need a commercial break. And so they said 20 years ago, the average attention span was about 8 to 9 minutes. 8 to 9 minutes. It might have been longer, but let's say 8 to 9 minutes. But now we have a lot of other things. We have computers and phones and email and text message, and Facebook and Twitter. So who can tell me, what do you think it is now, the average? 6 seconds. She said 3 minutes. 6 to 9 seconds. Yeah, right? And so here's the thing. 6 to 9 seconds. And so when you're up speaking, you're competing with the thoughts that are going on in their head, with their phones, with the text messages, with the tweet. Some people, they're slick, they're cool. I love this. Some people, I was speaking one time and they said, Ruben, I don't use my phone. I'm respectful. And they put the phone down. Like, that's great. And I don't know why you had to tell me, but I really appreciate that. Then the next thing I said, I'm doing this. And his messages came to his phone. He was on his watch. Anybody have one of those watches that the messages come to? So I'm watching you with your watch. You get away. Right? Yeah, no, but they come to their watch, so it still works the same way. You're competing with all that. That's why you have to connect with them through stories. If I say stories. Stories. You got to connect with them through stories. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. The next speaker style I want you to be aware of is the drill sergeant. The drill sergeant, you would say maybe like a Tony Robbins at times, maybe like a Eric Thomas at times. The drill sergeant, watch this, they feel like your problem is you. It's not your mom's fault, it's not your dad's fault, it's not your cousin's fault, it's not your brother's fault. The problem is you. And the only person who's going to change it is who? You. And so if you really want to change, don't sit there and complain about it. Don't talk about what happened to you in the past. Get up and do something about it. And that's the way they believe. And the drill sergeant never has a problem taking a speaking engagement on the fly. Because in the end, the problem is who? You. It's not their problem, it's your problem. So I don't have a problem coming out and telling you it's your problem. Right? So they're always ready. And they believe that at the end of the presentation, if they motivated you to take action for you, they've done their job. Now the problem is everybody can't take communication that way. And for some people this sounds like you're yelling. You remind them of their loud father, or abusive husband, or boyfriend, or their wife. It's just too much. And here's another thing. I was in the military. I had a drill sergeant. And the goal of the drill sergeant is not to get you to think. It's to eliminate your ability to think. Because they're really training you for war. Like I went to war. I was in the Gulf War in 1991. I was in the Gulf War. And so I know what it's like to be trained for war. And so what they really want to say is you might be at the bottom of a hill and there's people shooting up there and there's tanks up there and they say, get ready, we're going to take that hill. Don't think about it. And they don't want you to think, because if you thought about it, you'd say what? No. You go on to take that hill. I'll be right here when you get back. Right? Yeah, I'll get back with you on that. So literally, like watch this. When I was at my high school career fair, I met this guy, his name was Steve Miller. He was a paramedic, and they had the ambulance in the gym, and I remember going up in there, and I looked there, and it was absolutely amazing. They had all this stuff, and the oxygen mask, and I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be a paramedic. I want to be a paramedic. I want to save people's lives. I want to help people. And so I took the military test. I went to basic training during the summer of my senior year. I came back, and I graduated, and then I went to take the test, the ASVAB test, and they said, Ruben, you qualify for anything you want to do, so what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a paramedic. He was like, no, you're going to be part of the medical force. Yes. They said, but the problem is we don't really have a paramedic in the military. In the military, we have the same thing. It's called a combat medic. I was like, oh, combat medic, paramedic is all the same. No, it's not all the same. Because in the paramedic, you're usually riding in the ambulance and stuff like that. And they do have the medical vehicle in the military, but a lot of times you're attached to an infantry unit. A what? An infantry unit. And so how does that work? And so they had this big laser disc. This was 1987. They had this big laser disc, and they put it in, and they would show you the profession. And then they were in war, and boom, this guy got shot. They yelled, medic! And the medic ran out there, and the bullets are flying, and they're like fixing the guy up right there. And then it flashed us back, and it said, in the Vietnam War, the average life expectancy for a combat medic was 3 minutes. I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's not for me, right? And so in a moment, I had to change my whole profession. Right? And because a lot of times, things aren't what you think they are. So watch this. But I'm not the only one who experienced that. What I'm saying is I'm not the only one that looked at something originally and then went back and realized that it wasn't what it looked like. Because there's a lot of people who thought they were marrying a life partner and ended up marrying a life lesson. Now you see how I use my story to paint the picture, and then you took it right back to them so they could see what I was talking about. Our ability to paint the picture through a narrative of the story, and it could be our story or someone else's story, it doesn't matter. So our job to communicate as speakers is communicating through messaging and story. And anybody under 15? Nobody. Oh, one person. Two. Well, two, yeah, two. I really want you to start to get a feel for how many stories you have in your life. Millions. The problem is, you see what you see. And there's only a certain way you can see it. But you can have somebody work with you to pull those stories out and help you frame the narrative so that you can impact the audience on a deeper level. Does that make sense? The next speaker style is a motivator. A motivator really feels like their job is get you to do something, get you to take some kind of action. And they typically use stories about themselves and other people to get you to see the narrative. Oh, they're not going to beat us, make noise. Get ready. We're just going to make noise. Just to get them to see the narrative, okay? So I want you to think, when you're hearing these different speaking styles, I want you to think of which one you are. And don't worry, I have an assessment you can take. It's no cost. You can take the assessment and it'll show you whether which one is your primary and which one is your secondary. So I want you to understand this. I'm going to give you another example. So our job, number one, you never make a story, tell a story without a point, and you never tell a point without a story. Because the story is what they remember. So we don't have a problem telling points. We don't have a problem making points. We just tell them the points all day long. But at the end, they can't remember what you talked about. So I went to this church and I told the pastor, we were new to Bloomington. My wife found the church. He asked me to come. I went and I listened to the sermon. And unfortunately, I can't turn my brain off unless you engage me. And so afterwards, I was like, that needs some work. And so we were going out the door, and the minister was waiting at the back of the room, and he was greeting everybody coming out the door. He's like, hey, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And then he asked my wife, what did you think about the message? She said, it needs work. And I was like, what did you say? That's my wife, right back there. And I was like, I know she didn't just tell the minister that it needs work. And he said, and you know, they're never, most of the time they're not asking for the truth. They're asking for an answer. And you say, oh, it was wonderful, bless you. All the way out down, and she said, oh, yeah, it needs work. It needs work. Here's my husband, Ruben, and he's a trained speaker, and he can help you. And I was like, and I was like, babe, why did you say that? She said, he asked me. It's like, wow. And she was right. It worked. Now, and I told him, he said, you really think it needs work? I said, well, don't ask me. The next 3 or 4 people that come through, don't ask them what they thought of the sermon, ask them what you talked about. And so the next person came up and he said, how'd you like the sermon? He said, oh yeah, it was fun. He said, well, what did I speak about? And he's like, huh? He said, what did I speak about? Listen, well, basically you were saying that, that God loves us. And they couldn't say anything because they didn't have any story to wrap around their mind. They didn't have anything to associate it with. So they couldn't remember it. Because the story makes it sticky. So our job is to really figure out how do we use our story to connect with the audience. And it can be corporate or professional. It doesn't matter. When I train in companies, I still use the story. Everybody say give first. Give first. Watch this. I was taking a flight, and it was late at night. I was on the plane. I was talking to this other guy. The plane was delayed, and we were catching a flight in Atlanta, connecting in Atlanta. We had to get to our next plane. And so we get off, we're hustling, we get on this tram system, it's really big. And so we get up to the gate, they're already boarding the plane. We were both A groups. We fly Southwest a lot, so we were A groups, and we were hungry. And he said, I'm gonna grab a sandwich. I said, no, jump, run in this bathroom, and we out there and grab a sandwich. So I went in the bathroom, got done, came out. I was like 3 people behind him, and he ordered his sandwich. So he got the sandwich, no problem, that's cool. And they're calling the group and say, hey, do me a favor and save me a seat. Now, if you fly Southwest, you know you can't save a seat. But there's a way to save a seat. He said, well, I can't save a seat. Yes, you can. Sit in the middle. You don't want to sit by you. Just sit in the middle and people go right by you. And so he said, okay. So he went on. And so I'm waiting to get my sandwich. And in the meantime, they call him D group. And the lady up front is looking at the sign. I'm like, what are you looking for, man? I ordered the sandwich. Then they call it C group. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get the sandwich. And then they're like, look, we're shutting it down. And so I was like, I'm not going to get the sandwich. So I ran and I got on the plane. Now he had done what I said. He was sitting in the middle. There wasn't a lot of people. He moved over. I went in the middle. I sat by the window. He said, man, what's your sandwich? I said, man, the lady was, I don't know, praying. I don't know what she was doing. But she wouldn't order, they wouldn't come on. I didn't get a sandwich. She said, oh. And so I was just looking out the window and I heard this paper wrap. And I looked over and he was opening up his sandwich. And he looked at me and I looked out the window. And I heard the paper wrap and I looked back and I looked out the window and he said, man, you want to have this sandwich? And I was like, no. And he said, look, let me give you this sandwich. And so he gave me half the sandwich. I love the sandwich. 2 things. Food always tastes better when you're hungry and when it's free. And it was both. And it was free and it was absolutely delicious. So I was like chilling. I knocked the heat off my stomach. I'm laid back and relaxing and just waiting for them to say we reached our cruising altitude. I was going to hit that button and recline my seat. And they said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the cruising altitude. You're free to get out your mobile devices and all this stuff. And we're going to be coming through the beverage service. I thought that's cool. Because I fly Southwest, I'm A-list, and if you fly Southwest a lot, they send you what in the mail? They drink coupons. So I reached in my jacket, I pulled out my drink coupon, and I was ready. And they're coming down the aisle with a cart, and he's doing this. He's looking for something. Guess what he's looking for? I looked out the window. He was like, man. And so I looked over at him, and he looked at me and I said, you lost your coupon? He said, yeah, I can't find it. And he said, man, you know what? I said, wait a minute. I said, you want my drink coupon? And he said, you want me to have your coupon? I was like, yeah. But I went on and gave it to him. And you know why I gave it to him? Because he gave first. Dr. Robert Cialdini, the 6 principles of persuasion, he's a scientist. The 6 principles of persuasion talk about the number 1 principle is the law of reciprocity. That when you give to people, they want to give back to you. And corporations and companies are always trying to find ways to get their employers to give more, to do more, to be more. And I suggest that the best way to do it is to give what? First. And they love it. And they say, Ruben, hey, we have another branch over over on the other side of town. We want you to train them too. And when you train them, make sure you tell that very same story. They don't want me to change it. They don't want me to adjust it because they were impacted by it. And then when I'm done, they're like, Ruben, give first, right? Because they remember the principle, but they really remember the what? The story. And so my job is to help you frame the narrative, frame the story, so that you can build in the connection with the audience. Because everybody say international. I told that same story in Dubai. I told that same story in London. I told that same story in Oman. It's international and universal because the best way to connect with a human being is to be one. And so they understand it. You get that? They understand. They understand the narrative, and so they're like, yes, I like that. I get it. They get it. When we were in Dubai, there was, I think, 26 Japanese International Speakers Forum, and they were translating it in Japanese, and they still laughed because they got it, right? Because it's human connection. Does that make sense? So what I want you to think about is you have to ask yourself, what is the point that you're trying to get across? And then you start going back. Once you ask that question, you go back to your mind. How do you know it's true? So you ask yourself, how do you know it's true? And then when you ask yourself that question, you'll start going through your Rolodex in your mind and finding stories that will prove the point. And it doesn't have to be your story. And the story doesn't have to be about you. Everybody say, give them what they want.
Give them what they want.
So this is my wife, Robin. My wife, Robin, is an event planner. She's a what?
Event planner.
Right. And so when I turned 40, she said, babe, you're turning 40, and I really want to do something special for you. And I wanted to know, well, what would you like for your 40th birthday? And I said, I want a nice, quiet, intimate dinner. Everybody say that. A nice, quiet, intimate dinner. Simple. Give them what they want. I want a nice, quiet, intimate dinner. But my wife is a what?
Event planner.
So, I wasn't tripping. We were in Bloomington, Illinois. We're going back to Topeka, Kansas, where I'm from. And it was my birthday. And she said, babe, it's your birthday. I said, no. And I'm hyped because I know I'm getting a nice, quiet, intimate dinner. And so she said, we're going to go pick up our friends Kevin and Lita. They're my best friends. So I was like, let's go get them. Now, my wife had picked out some clothes for me to wear. They were like black and white. And I was like, that's cool. And she had on black and white. And I was like, I didn't know I couldn't dress myself, but I didn't say that. Whatever she wants to do. And then we get to Kevin and Lita's house, and they have on black and white. And I was like, man, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm going out to have a great time because I'm going for a what? A nice, quiet, intimate dinner. Now, this is interesting. Kevin says to me, he said, Ruben, Steve Twimlow, who's another martial artist in town, he has a school, we have a school, he said he wants you to come. He's having a black belt test, and he wants you to come speak to his black belts. And I'm a 7th degree black belt and a speaker, so I was like, I got that. Let's roll up there. So we roll up to the Capitol Plaza Hotel. I'm going to go in there and knock out this quick little presentation. These black belts are future black belts. And then we're going to go for my nice, quiet, intimate dinner. And so I'm hustling up there like, come on, y'all, let's go. And they're kind of lagging behind. I was like, come on, so we can get in and get out because I got this dinner to get to. And so they're like lagging behind. I'm like, oh, God. But you know the ladies have heels, so I got to slow it down. I'm figuring that it's taking so long because of heels. So I walk up to the door, and I open the door, and guess what they yell? And I was surprised. Because I wanted a what?
A nice, quiet, intimate dinner.
And so I was like, oh my God, yes! Oh, and I'm hugging, and then they're like, Ruben, surprise. I'm like, thank you. This is so wonderful. That wasn't really what I wanted, but I wanted a few other things, so I just went along with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, hey, this is wonderful. This is so good. I appreciate you so much. Oh, I can't believe you did this for me. Oh, I don't know how you came up with this idea. Because she's a what?
Event planner.
And so I said, the problem is, she doesn't know. And so she's younger than me. And so her 40th birthday was coming. And I said, babe, what do you want for your 40th birthday? And she's a what? And so she wanted a big shindig. And she was telling me, she's like, well, you know, if you want to invite people and so on and so forth, and if they come, and if I don't know about it, that's okay too. But check this out. I wanted to show her the benefit of a nice, quiet, intimate dinner. Y'all see where this is going, don't you? So her birthday comes, and she's in there getting dressed, got 6 extra shots of perfume. I'm like, hey, come on out there. Let's go on the day. And so she's okay, I just want to get ready. And she just taking all this extra time. I was like, baby, you're beautiful. She's like, I know, but I just want to be ready. I said, it's just me. Like, I'm thinking, like, you're ready. And so we get out and we pull up to the hotel. She gets this little extra swag. Right? And I said, well, we got to stop at the desk and get the keys. So I'd set the room up earlier. And so we get the keys, and I give her one, and I give one. We're going to open the door. She knocks me out of the way and sticks the key in and jumps in. And I'm like, uh-oh. Because she wanted a what? Right? And so she's looking around, and she's like, and I got rose petals on the floor and on the bed because I'm trying to give her a nice, quiet, intimate dinner and other things. And so she picked up the rose petals and like, what is this? That's the thing, it's like rose petals. I saw it on TV. It's romantic. She dropped it, and then I had this scented candle burning. She said, what's this? I said, it's a scented candle. She said, and believe me, this is the nice version. And so I learned the hard way to give them what they want. And so a lot of times we're trying to figure out how to get our employees more engaged. And we come up with all these things to give them, but we're not giving them what they want. Now you see how I took that narrative. It's just my own story. And I framed it in a way that I use it for the corporation, and they get it and they love it, right? But everybody say story bank.
Story bank.
Your job is to put together a story bank. And when you put the stories together, now you can incorporate elements of the different speaking styles so that when you communicate with your audience, you're hitting everybody. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so everybody say everybody. Everybody has stories. You can't. Now, here's the problem. It doesn't mean that you're capable of extracting them and putting them together to formulate it in a way that is engaging to the audience. And that's where help comes in. So the reason you get somebody to help you with the stories, a lot of times they see things that you don't see. They're just like, it's like going to the doctor. You go to the doctor and then you feed them some information, they're making a diagnosis, and then they turn around and they give you back the prescription. Here's what you need to do, or here's what you need to take, or this is how you need to exercise. But they give it back to you based on the information that you fed them, and that's exactly what I do when I'm speaking or when I'm working with speakers. It's my job to bring in the information. You may not know how to formulate it. That's what I'm great at. Nobody showed me this or told me this. This is a skill that I had, and the kindergarten teacher said I was doing it in kindergarten. I'm thinking, Mom, I could have been getting paid way back then. Right? That's called a tie back. Now I'm going to show you 3 techniques. That's called a tie back. That's when you tie back to something that you already did or already said. Here's another thing. Anybody go to a concert? So when you go to a concert, watch this. Have anybody ever listened to the radio, driving down the street or at home, you hear a song and you say, man, I got to have that song. And then you went out and you brought the record, you probably don't know anything about that, the record or the 8-track or the CD or the tape, or you downloaded it and you paid after, you got the song. But you can hear it for free on the radio. But you still went out and bought it. And then you listen to the same song over and over again, because when you listen to it, it makes you feel a certain way, don't you? Bruno Mars has that song. What's that song?
Mini? Which one?
No.
Uptown Funk.
What is it? No.
24 Carats.
Not Uptown Funk.
Lazy.
No. I just have it on my phone. And it's the, yeah, something like, no, listen, hold on, let me think about it. I just have it on automatic on my phone at the house. But that's what I like. That's what I like. Yeah. So I'm not talking about anybody in this room. But there's a person I know, and that's the code song. So when I hear that song, that's what I like. It's code.
got it.
Let's go. Let's go. That means whatever you're doing right now, there's something more important to be doing. And I don't even know all the words to the song. You get what I'm saying? I don't know the words to the song. I do know that's what I like. That's what I like. That's what. So everybody say the hook. The hook. Everybody likes to sing the hook. See, have you ever went to a concert of the people that you brought their music? And then you want them to sing that same song, and you want them to sing it the same way. Doesn't it make you mad when they change the song? You're like, stop changing the song. Now the reason you get mad is because you want to do what? You want to sing along. And the smart artists allow you to sing the hook. Everybody say sing the hook. Sing the hook. So they may say, I got sunshine on a cloudy day. See, y'all see that? That's a technique. Because I said, I wanted a what? A nice, quiet, intimate. It's allowing you to sing the hook. See, that's allowing you to be a part of the concert. See how I did it? So one of the things you have to do is you have to take your story and figure out what are you going to allow the audience to be a part of. Because they don't want to just sit there and listen. They want to create an experience. Our job is to create an experience. Because anything we speak about, anything we talk about, they can go Google it and in 1/10 of a second get 10 million hits. And so the information is out there. If information changed people, we'd all be skinny, happy, healthy, and rich. Because the information is all there. They're bringing us in to create the experience. So our job is to create the experience. That's our job. And so what we do is we try and find the way to create the experience because it's the experience that they're going to connect with. See, that's why I said I can't tell you that you're going to make $1 million speaking, but what I can tell you is that you're going to increase your experience and you increase your impact, and impact drives what? Income. See how I let you see the hook? See, I planted that seed early. Like I'm teaching you while I'm teaching. Because these are techniques that you can use, but you're not going to see it all. It's not always going to come to you, and that's why you work with somebody to help you bring it out. So that you're literally figuring out ways to position your information, to position your message, so that when you say it, number one, it's engaging. Number two, they like it, but you want them leaving feeling better about themselves, but talking about you. Right? And everybody say helium. Helium. So if you have a balloon, you can fill it with air. But does it go up? No. But if you fill it with helium, it goes up. Our job, and remember that your words, yours, and yours, your words are the helium to someone's balloon. And so when you're standing up there speaking, you have another job. And that is that you have to believe that you're up there for a reason and somebody in the audience needs your words. And so our job is to elevate them physically. Because with the right message, you get more energy, you get more spirit, but you also get excited, but you can change them mentally. I told you, Edwina, Ruben, there's something special about you. The power of death and life is in the what? In the beginning was the what? The word. We're using the same words. So our job is to use our words because these words are transformative to the people that are in the audience. And that's why if you put I love working with speakers. I love working with speakers. I love training speakers. And this will sound funny, but I'm never focused on getting them to make money. I focus on getting them to make an impact. When they make the impact, then I make the money. Right? But if you're going to get paid, be paid for impacting someone's life, for changing someone's life. Because watch this. If you went and did a free speech and you still change someone's life, it's going to change your life. A guy, we were at the vending machine, and he said, do you have change? He had this wrinkled up dollar, and he kept sticking it in, and guess what the machine kept doing? Spitting it right back out. And so he said, do you have another crisp dollar or change for $1? And I said, I don't have another dollar bill, but I do have some quarters. So I got in my pocket, and I gave him 4 quarters. He gave me the $1. I put it in my pocket. And that moment, I realized something. That any time you give someone the change they need, you both end up with something. You feel that? Like you give them the change they need. If you're in the audience and they're in the audience and you're speaking to them and you give them the change they need, they come up and say, hey, wait a minute, let me tell you, like what you said changed my life. You gave them what they needed, but I promise you, when you leave out of there, you ended up with something different too. Les Brown, when I first started working with Les Brown, I said, Les, he said, Yes, I said, I'm the one. And he said, what? I said, I'm the one. He said, yeah, okay. All right, Ruben, all right. And I said, no, Les, I'm the one. Now, I wasn't saying it to be egotistic. I was saying it because something hit me at the moment when I went to college. Because I never had ever heard of him before 6 months before I called him. I never knew who he was. I never knew who he was. And I said, one day, when you can't go speak, you're going to call me so I can go fill in for you. He said, yes, Ruben. Oh, all right. You got a little less around? You got to be older. Yeah. You got to be hungry. It's cool. Like one day, though, I'm hungry, but one day you're going to call me. And you know, I know he was like, yeah, whatever. And so, interesting enough, my wife and I was at the mall. She spends a lot of time there. And so we're at the mall, and I didn't want anything. I just realized that when I go, we always come back with less. And so if I just go send her on her own, don't tell her when she's going to come back. But if I go, then they're like, what do you think about this? Do they have it in red? Yes. Oh, no. Or do they have it in green? Right? So I just go. And we're at the mall, and this day she wanted to get her nails done, her fingernails and her toenails, and said, you should do it with me. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever you want, baby. You know, there's some other stuff that I want. So I just went along with it. And so I'm sitting there, and the phone rings. And I have this picture on there, it's Les Brown. I picked it up and said, hey, Les, it's Ruben. He said, great one. How are you doing? I said, I'm great. I'm here at the mall with my wife. Yeah, that's it. I'm just here at the mall with my wife. And he said, listen. Tomorrow I'm supposed to speak in Detroit, and I can't make it. And I need you to go cover me. And I remembered the day I told her that. Right? The power of death and life is in the tongue. So I said, and she's like, it's on speaker, I heard it. I said, oh. I said, like I was a kid, can I first go? I said, you know I'm going to make this decision right now, Les. I said, yes, I can come. I can go cover for you. He said, great, I'm going to give you the guy's number. Matter of fact, I'm going to hold on, I'm get him on the three-way. He said, this is Ruben. He's the one. Now, he's using my word. He said, he's the one. He's going to cover for me. And you guys take care of the arrangements, and they'll pick you up at the airport, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, great. And I never asked him what the engagement was, where it was at, what else. I didn't ask anything because somewhere in the back of my mind when I very first met him, I knew that day was coming. And I knew that I would be prepared. Remember this, the highest form of faith is preparation. If you really believe it, if you really believe you're supposed to change someone's life, if you really believe when you stand on stage you're going to be the helium to someone's balloon, it won't show up in your words, it'll show up in your actions. And so you'll do some things to make sure that you're ready for that moment. And so I got in the car and I drove to Chicago and I flew out there to Detroit and they had a sign with my name on it. I was like, oh my God. And I said to the guy, can I just take a picture of you and the sign? Yeah, I guess. He didn't understand. Like this was a destiny moment. Listen to this. There's good opportunities and there's God opportunities. And that sign, that was a God opportunity. So I said, I got to take a picture. I took a picture of the sign, and he took me to the hotel. And then my friend Robin Tyrell, she lives in Detroit, Michigan. I mean, she lives in Flint, Michigan. So she drove over to Detroit, and she's like, Ruben, I'm so happy for you. This is amazing. What are you talking about? I don't know. She said, where are you speaking at? I said, well, you won't believe this, but I don't know. She said, well, who's the audience? I said, I don't know. She said, what are you going to say? I said, I don't know. I don't know. Because at times we're the vessel. At times we're the vessel. And so part of your message is, you know what the message is, but the other part is the freedom to allow the words to come through you. Not just to you, but to come through you. And so I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to speak about right before I go up on the stage. Because right now I don't know what the message is. I don't even know where I'm going. So we get in the car, I talk to the guy. I said, hey, do they know Les Brown is not coming? He said, no, but they will before you go up there. Right? And so now in my head, I'm thinking, me thinking if I was going to go listen to Les Brown, and this dude from Bloomington, Illinois showed up. Right? That was literally what I was thinking. And I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'd be thinking. And so when he got up there and he told the people, and the people were all excited, and he went up there and said, y'all ready to get started? They're like, yeah, we're ready to get started. He said, well, I got something to tell you. And like, I'm sitting on the front row. He said, you know, you guys were coming to hear Les Brown, like, woo! Motivators! I'm like sliding over. And they said, he couldn't make it today. And you heard everybody say, and they said, but don't worry. He sent the one. He said, this guy is the one for you. He said, he's going to rock the crowd. And they're like, and the people behind me didn't know it was me. They're like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe it. I was like, really? Like, can you believe this? Hey, can you believe this? I was like, no, I can't. So they said, well, we're going to bring him up here right now. And it's Reuben West, and they pointed to me. And they're like, ooh. So I got up there, I was like, yeah. And so I walked up there, and this is what I said. I said, I know you were coming to hear Les Brown, and you wanted to hear, you got to be hungry. I said, and right about now, you got to be angry. Because that's what I would have felt had I been expecting to hear Les Brown, and this dude just walked up there. And I said, but here's what I told him. But here's what I know. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And there's someone in this room, I'm going to change your life tonight. And so I don't know who it is, but when I get done, if it was you, I'm going to talk to you. I want you to just meet me in the center aisle. Which aisle? They said the center aisle. I said, I didn't believe that. Which aisle? They said the center aisle. I said, if it's you, if I change your life tonight, because Les didn't tell me I was going to get the fee. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say, Reuben, I'll make sure they give you the check. And I didn't need him to give me the check. I can get my own check. Give me the opportunity. And so I said, if I share some information that changes your life, that impacts your life, I just want you to meet me in this middle aisle afterward. And they said, okay. I just did my presentation. I did what I was called to do, but I used my techniques. I knew about the callbacks, I knew about the tiebacks, I knew about the foundational phrases, and I knew that they wanted to sing the hook. And I built all of these things into the presentation. And when I got done, listen to this. Every single person in the room went and got in his eye. We're going to hear a long time. And then, I'll be honest with you, like, I started coming up, and then everybody wanted to talk to me privately. So they wanted to come up, they wanted everybody to step back, and they said, listen, now watch this powerful. They said, when you told this particular story, it changed my life. Like, when you said this. Now, here's how I know their speaking style and their listening style, because depending on what story did it for them, I was either using the scientific style or the motivator style or the comedic style. You see what I'm saying? So I knew who they were. And so when I could communicate with them, I told them that information. They're like, this story just changed my life. This is so great. And then, like, literally, it was almost 2 hours. I was just one hour, and nobody was getting out of line. And then about 30 people got out of line. I was like, I know I impacted them. And then what I did was when I was about my stuff and came back and got in line, so I decided to work. You see what I'm saying? And so I waited each one of them, and I signed this stuff, and then they said, Reuben, it used to be called the Church of the Day, and now it's called the Renaissance, and it was like a 5,000 seat facility, and it was at their church, and he said, we want you to come back on a Sunday morning and speak to our whole congregation. And obviously we're going to pay you. I mean, obviously we're going to pay you. And we want you to do some breakout sessions just to train the people on the information we're talking about. Because impact drives what? Income. And all I focused on was changing lives and making an impact. And so when I work with speakers, I don't work with them to make money. I work with them to change a life and create an impact. And I'm going to be honest with you, at the end of this, I'm going to give you an opportunity to work with me. It's not for everybody. If you want to make money, you should. There's nothing wrong with it. But the primary thing you should want to make is what? Impact. But I'm sure, not here, but I'm sure out there you can find some people that say they can help you make $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million or whatever. I don't know that I can help you do that. But what I can help you do, if you feel like you were called to do it, is to change somebody's life. Now watch this. I don't know if you saw on the news, but in Florida, they had that guy that went in that school and started shooting people. And all hell broke loose. And there was a security officer, police officer, whose job was to protect the kids. And they said when the shooting started, he went and hid. Now he's the only one there that can have a gun. This guy brought his gun illegally. He's walking around shooting the kids. And the very person they paid to save their life, he went and hid. And people said, well, that's crazy. Like the guy went and hid. And they were talking bad about the guy. I said, hold up, time out. Because I was in the military. And I don't know if you know what the sound of an A1 rifle, M16A1 rifle, or AR-15, or AK-47. I don't know if you know what that sounds like when it's being aimed at you. Because I don't care what you think you might do. You got a 9mm. They got an AR-15. It's not the same thing. And so while you're judging the guy, while you think you know what you do, you really don't know what you would do. So I don't want you to judge him. But here's the funny thing. They have FBI, they have Secret Service agents. And the Secret Service agents, they protect who? The president. Their job is to save his what?
Right.
Point blank save his life. And so if somebody's shooting at the president, their job is to jump in front of the bullet. So what you have to understand is they have a different level of training. As a matter of fact, what I was told is they train them completely differently. You know what they do? They have them get down, and then they shoot the gun, boom, and they make them stand up. And then they get back down, boom, and they make them jump back up. Because the normal tendency when you hear the gunshot is to get where? Down. I might get in the ground. I didn't blame them because when they said, Ruben, you're a combat medic, they say medic. And I was like, I already know I'm not running out there. There's no need to be playing like I didn't want to run out there. So I can't blame this guy because I know what he thought he would do, but in the moment you don't know what you would do. But for some reason, the Secret Service agents, they stand up. And you know why they do it? It's because they're trained completely differently. And so they put them in a position, and then when the gunshot go off, they make them stand up. They make them go against the grain. And I could never train you to be a Secret Service agent. But I can train you to be a change agent. Every day, people are getting shot down there. They're being abused, they're being talked about, they're being oppressed, and you see these people go crazy, you see them killing all the people, and just all this stuff that people say, well, can you believe that? Can you understand that? What do you think about that? And all I'm thinking is, what if they would have heard me or someone that I trained speak? And they were the helium to their balloon that elevated them out of that situation. What if they were the change agent, not the Secret Service agent, but the change agent that affected change in their life, and for whatever reason that made them want to do that in the first place, they were willing to set the gun down, to set it aside, to save a life. And what if that person is you, and you're the person to stop the very next person? So, that's what I'm doing. And I believe that this is my mandate. That I'll probably be doing this till I can't do it anymore. I was just in Dubai and Bahrain, and it's greater than it was for me. What was greater is I took 3 of my speakers with me and to see them on the stage. And to see them change a life, to see them impact a life where people who weren't dressed like them, who didn't look like them, who stood up and they were crying and said, no, when you spoke, one of my speakers, Tracy Ward from Topeka, Kansas, and she said, Ruben, did you see the way they responded to me? And she was crying, and I said, Tracy, I did. She said, who would have ever thought? See, the reason she said that is because she said, Ruben, you got to understand, I grew up in Pine Ridge. That's the kind of the ghetto of Topeka, Kansas. She said, I grew up in Pine Ridge. And I said, I get it, Trey, but it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. And nonetheless, your story still resonates in another country. And here's another thing. What I found very interesting, and Les Brown told me that, he said, Ruben, when you go outside the country, they're going to like you more than they like you in the country. Les, come on. You know, I thought he was motivated. That's what he's supposed to say. He's supposed to be the helium to my balloon. But he was right. You know why? Because they see us differently. See, they don't believe what they see on TV. They see the same thing we see, but when they see us getting shot and things like that, they don't say it's justified self-defense. They didn't see the person struggling. They didn't see anybody in fear for their life. They just saw somebody get killed. And so what they're saying is, man, if you're African American and you can make it in America, I've got to listen to you. There has to be something I can do. That's really what they do. And so we have, interesting enough, we have more stock outside of the country than we do in the country. And but now here's what's crazy. Then once they see you outside the country, then everybody in the country wants you. Oh, you were just speaking over the Dubai. Well, we got to bring you in. Well, but I reached out to you 2 weeks ago. Yeah, but it's different now.
They want you.
Right? And so one of the things I know is that it's my job. I just teamed up with Dr. Clyde Rivers and write this down. His organization is called iChangeNations.org. iChangeNations.org. His name is Clyde, C-L-Y-D-E, Rivers, R-I-V-E-R-S. And he is an ambassador, and he's traveled to all these different nations. And he said, Ruben, we've got to go affect these nations. He said, I want to take you to meet the president of Burundi, president of Sierra Leone. I believe you have a message that can change your life. And he said, the word of this dispensation of time. He said, but what I also believe is we need a team of people that do it. And I said, well, you know I change people. He said, no. And so I sent him this clip. And he said, Ruben, what I want to do is I want to create an international speakers bureau with the Black Belt Speakers. That's my organization, Black Belt Speakers. He said, because I believe that you all can help us impact the world. And so immediately when he said that, I knew it was right because that was just confirmation of what I had already been told. And then what else I was told was that people would be sent to me. Yeah. Oh, sorry. What he also said was that people would be sent to me. And I get that because you gotta really feel how strong he says. Did anybody hear my talk? No. Look in the book. Is my room number in there?
No.
No. See? And so everybody was saying, well, Ruben, you should go say something. You should. See, I could. But it's different when you've been put in a destiny. Because the right people will find you. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. So I could have went up there and gave a power talk, and a lot more people would have been in the room, but they would have been in the room because they would have been engaged and connected to my message and all that, and they would want to come in. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I really want to do is I really want to help people who are committed to making a difference, not only in their neighborhood, not only in their country and community, but around the world. And if they make money too, okay. But listen to that. If they make money too, okay. But the first thing we have to do is you have to make the impact. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so my number one goal is to take speakers and communicators and help them communicate and make an impact on a deeper level. And I know it's not a question. It's not a question. When you make that kind of impact, they're going to pay you. Because that's what they're paying you for. And so it's the simple thing. They say, Ruben, I'm not getting paid. You're not making an impact. So don't focus on getting paid. Focus on creating a deeper impact. Right? Because that's why there's A-list actors and B-list actors and C-list actors. When I watched Denzel and John Q, I thought it was his son. I believed every single, I was like, he said, nobody's going to bury my son. That's right. Right? He had to. He gripped you. He was so impactful. That's why he's paid so much, because he connects on such a deeper level. At some point, we have to learn to express and connect on a deeper level. You guys feel connected to me when I'm talking? Yeah. I'm just like you. I just trained to make a deeper impact. And then also look at, there's some connections that we make through our stories. There's stories that you have that people will only relate to your story. They won't relate to mine. Les told me, he said, Ruben, there are people that you're supposed to reach and I can't reach them. And so my wife was in the kitchen, he called me. I just started working with him not long. He said, Ruben, I had a guy back out of me in Los Angeles, and I need you to come out and do an engagement with me in LA. I'll pay for your flight and all that stuff. I was like, wife. She said, well, that's our anniversary. And I said, Les, that's our anniversary. He said, tell her to come too. I'll pay for her to come. She can come and hear us and listen in. And I said, babe, Les said he'll pay for you to come. You can fly in, you can listen, he'll pay for the hotel and everything. She said, I'm going to help you out. If I go to LA, I'm not going to sit there listening to you and Les Brown. I'm telling all her business, ain't I? Put it out there. That's exactly what she said. And I was like, Les, she said she had some other stuff to do. I'm like, oh, right? And so he literally flew me out there, and I thought this was amazing. And so I remember sitting at the hotel, waiting for him to come pick me up, and I'm waiting because they're going to pick me up and take me to his house. And I'm waiting, and he called me, he said, Ruben, yes, sir. Are they there yet? I said, no, sir, they're not here. I said, but I'm waiting outside. He said, okay, well, as soon as they get there, get in the car, come on up. I'm ready. So I'm waiting. And I'm like, no, just take this so long. But then I kept thinking, what am I going to say tomorrow at this event? And so he called back to Ruben. I said, yes, sir. He said, what's going on? I said, nothing. I'm just sitting out in front of the hotel waiting for them to come. He said, well, they ain't there yet. I said, no, sir. I don't know what they're doing. He said, okay, well, as soon as they come, get in the car and get over it. Yes, sir. Then he called me back and said, Ruben, they said they've been sitting out in front of the hotel for, I was like, oh, it's not a taxi? Right, you see, I had a small thought. I thought a taxi was coming. It wasn't a taxi. I was like, you here for Ruben Les? Yeah, Les, I just seen him. He said, I said he just showed up. I said, I just seen him. So I got in the car and he took me over to his house, and all I wanted to know was, Les, what do you want me to talk about tomorrow? Like, the guy didn't show up, what am I supposed to talk about? So when I got there, I came into the room and he hugged me, and I said, Les, what am I supposed to talk about tomorrow? He said, don't worry, you got this. He said, you were born to do this work. And I said, okay, but I need to know what I want to talk about because these people are expecting me to say something. He said, well, don't worry about it. So he goes on talking about all this other stuff, and I engage him, and I talk, and I'm hyped, and I'm happy, but in my mind, I want to know what? What am I supposed to talk about? So I said, Les, hold up, tomorrow I'm going to speak, and I'm going to go up there on stage, and I need to know what am I supposed to talk about? He said, don't worry, you got this. You were born to do this work. And I said, oh, okay. And so we sat there for another hour and a half, and then he said, well, I'm going to have them come pick you up. And I said, well, Les, before they come, tomorrow, what do you want me to talk about? What do you want me to cover? And he said, Ruben, don't worry, you were what? Born to do this work. And I'm like, Lord, am I going to have to jump on Les Brown? And he said, don't worry about it. So they came, they took me back to my hotel. I'm going to be honest with you, I never slept all night. Because I tried to lay down, and all I could think about was, what am I supposed to talk about? One of the world famous Les Brown. Whoever it was, they canceled. I've got to go up there and say something. So I couldn't sleep. I got up probably 3 a.m. I got dressed. It was in California, so they were already behind the time anyway. So you see what I'm saying? So I was up early. And so I get there early, and I'm waiting, and I'm at the top of the escalator, and about 5 people start coming up, 6, 10, a lot of people coming up, and I'm like, I want to talk to them because I just want to find out what am I supposed to talk about. And then after a while, a big crowd of people are coming. They're flooding in, and then it slows down. And then there's like 20 people, 10 people, 2 people, and nobody's coming. And this lady said, are you Ruben West? I said, yes. She said, Les Brown is looking for you. I said, well, how is he looking for me? I've been standing here the whole time. I never saw him come up there. She said, he's not coming up the front escalator. Just come on, follow me. I went inside, and they were inside, and like he was already up on stage. I'm like, oh. And so, they're laughing, and they're loving it, and they're clapping, and all that stuff. And he said, well, the great news is, I have a bunch of people that I want to introduce you today, but I have this great speaker, and there's other people there, so he was bringing up this other guy, and then I said, when he walks off the stage, I'm going to trap him, and I'm going to take him out in the hall, and I'm going to ask him, what is it that you want me to speak about? I'm a black belt, don't make me prove it to you, right? He's like, I'm bringing up this great speaker, you guys think I'm great, but this guy's even better than me, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go after him. And he said, I'm bringing to the stage Ruben West, and I was like, yeah, the guy has my name. That is crazy. And I said, did he just say Ruben West? And so they're all standing up clapping because he's pointing back at me. And I was like, oh, God. I was like, oh, anybody see that movie, The Green Mile? And I'm like taking baby steps, and I'm really thinking, like, what am I going to say when I get up on the stage? And so I walk up on the stage, and he hands me the microphone. He says, you were born to do this. And I'll get you in the him with this microphone. And so when he was walking off, I'm just standing there with the mic in my hand. And I said out loud, but I was saying it to myself. I was like, what do you say when you're following a guy who won an Emmy, the top 5 speakers in the world, and he's spoken at Harvard and all these things? And I said, you have to trust the technique and be yourself. And I said, I'm here to talk to y'all about being yourself. And that's exactly what my message was. And so I knew I had technique. I knew I had these things. Will the callbacks work? Will the tiebacks work? Will they be able to sing the hook? I'm just going to use the technique. And then when I got done, they're all standing up, whistling and clapping. And then I go over there, and all these people come up to me and say, Ruben, like, we want to buy your CD. We want to buy your book. And I'm like, I don't have nothing. And I said, well, my book is not yet done. And they said, well, we'll buy the CD. I said, well, my CD is still in production. Call those things that are not as though they were. My CD is in production. And they said, well, great. Well, we'll just pay now, and when you get it done, you mail it to us.
All right.
Okay, start a list. And that's why I got my first CD done so quick, because they had already paid for it. But it showed me something else. Ruben, you were born to do this work. And so who is it that I'm looking to work with? People who feel like they were born to do this work. Here's what I know. They're not going to look like what you think they look like. They probably won't be the people on the stage talking the loudest. They won't. They'll probably be the average everyday people who have a gift. And here's the funny thing. The gift always comes wrapped. It always comes wrapped. And a lot of times, you have no idea what's in the box. But you know it's something for you. And so what I'm saying is, if you feel you're that person with that gift, I want to extend an offer to you. And if you work with me already or have worked with me, raise your hand. If you're going to work with me, I want you to see it. All I want you to do, and this is a good thing to ask everybody. But I want you to, when you're signing up to work with me, I want you to find some people that they've worked with, and then some people that they've worked with that they no longer work with. And find out why they no longer work with. Because they may say, hey, they fulfilled everything they're supposed to give me, and I moved on. Or they may say, hey, I didn't get what I was supposed to get. Now, one thing that you probably don't know about me is my organization, my group is called Black Belt Speakers. Black Belt Speakers. And if you ever see us hashtag, you see us hashtag BBS what?
Family.
Family. Family. So people ask me, well, Ruben, how long is the program? We have a formal program, but I don't know, how long do you want to be together to impact lives? See, I'm not going to tell you in 12 weeks I can make you be the world's best speaker. Mastery happens over time, not overnight. And so how long we work together? Probably forever. Just because we have the same mission. And I know that it's going to take us a while to deliver this mission, to deliver these opportunities. And our job in the meantime is to keep growing and keep getting better, because when the door opens, see, when Les called me that day, it was too late. Like today is the day to deliver. And so all the stuff that I've worked on in the past, all the messages that I worked on in the past, that was my delivery day. You get that? And so I had to step in that day and deliver. And so it didn't matter what I did in the past, for the sake of the past, but it did matter for the sake of the people in the room. And so here's what I want to offer you: 2 things. Number one, if you feel like you want to deepen your message and you want to make a greater impact, if you feel like, Ruben, I do want to speak, but I really would like to speak internationally. I'm going to Dubai and Sri Lanka in November, and I'm already taking 6 speakers with me. If you feel like, hey, I would like to consider speaking internationally. I'd like to see what that's like. I'd like to experience that. If you feel like I want to work on my message, I really want to create this story bank. You talk about the story bank, and I know I have stories because I've lived through a lot. And I can use these stories to impact people's lives and change people's lives. If you're saying these things, then we should probably have a conversation about working together. And if you just came in and you felt like you got value, anybody get value from this? If you you got value, then I did my job. But if you feel like, hey, there's probably some other work that I'd like to do with you, I would just like to talk to you after I let everybody go, and I'll tell you what that's about. But I don't want anybody to feel pressure. I don't ever want to pressure anybody, because it's not about the pressure. Because for me, it's not about the money. You see, one of the things I've learned is there's people who are focused on their income while you're trying to focus on your outcome. That's not me. Like, my job is to focus on your outcome right along with you. And so if that's you, when I let everybody go, then I'll tell you exactly what I have and the opportunities to work with me, what it looks like, and all of it. And if you don't want to do it, don't feel bad. All I want you to do is I want you to tell somebody, hey, I got a chance to hear Ruben, and I thought he was whatever you thought I was. I'm not going to tell you to say I was great or wonderful or anything. I'm not going to tell you that. But if those words pop in your head somehow, go ahead and tell them. But here's what I want to do. I want to answer any questions you might have about a presentation or presenting. Because what I found is that the better the questions and the better the information, and I'll field any question, doesn't matter what the question is. Or if you have some story and you want to figure out, like, how do I frame that story, I'll answer that too. And then, wife, if you just check on the time, how much time we have. Who has a question?
It's 6:13.
Huh?
It's 6:13.
I don't know what that, I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what room I was in. So, like,
It didn't have it on there.
Yes, I'm Juliet Adams, and I've always heard about stories being powerful by great political leaders, people that you meet. Now, do you know the physiology or the psychology of story? There's more to it than just you connect.
Yeah, so what she's asking is, what is the physiology or the psychology about a story? And so words have power. The power of death and life is in the what? Because, listen to this is powerful. You can't say the word happy and understand what it means without having ever felt happy. You understand? Like, when you say those words, it's taking you back subconsciously to a time when you were happy. That's why the ability to eliminate negative words from our vocabulary is really the power to live a more impactful life. Because here's the funny thing. Whether you know it or not, the words you speak are creating. It's creating. So the reason the stories are so powerful is you're creating the feeling. The best way to connect with a human being is the what?
Be one.
Be one, right? And so you're creating a feeling with the human being. So did you see how I was laughing when I told the story? And when I was laughing, you were what?
Laughing.
Because you're doing the same thing I'm doing. And I know you're going to do the same thing I do. So I have to give you permission to laugh. So one of the things people do is they say stories that would have been funny, but you haven't given the audience permission to laugh. And so they don't know if they're laughing at you or they're laughing with you. Right? And so they get scared about laughing at you. So if you're not laughing, they're not laughing. So when I talk about my wife, I just laugh. But sometimes that's all I can do. I tell y'all, that's all I can do. But you see what I'm saying? So the whole purpose of the story is and that's one of the things we do when we create your story bank, is you know what physiology you're going for. Because the biggest mistake I see speakers make is they tell what I would call a low energy story, or I don't want to say necessarily a negative energy story, but a story that's really heart-gripping and of loss or tragedy, and they tell it too late in the presentation. And then they don't have time to bring the people out of that story. So there is a difference between changing someone's life and them feeling sorry for you. What does that look like? They come up to you and say, man, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And it's terrible. See, they're not changed by it. They're feeling sorry for you. Your job is to not only take them through the story, but show them your comeback power. Because I'm going to tell you, and here's what I know, even though that hurt me, even though it was hard for me, I came back, and here's what I know. If I can do it, guess what? You can do it. See, that's the helium to their balloon. They're like, yes, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. See, I know the psychology of why I'm telling the story and then what I need to do to bring them out of the story. So if you tell the story too late in the presentation, then you're going to leave them in a down mood. And so it's a psychology to that, but I know why I'm telling the story. So one of the things we do when we're looking at your story bank is, what is the psychology of the story? Because when you tell it, it's going to get them to feel a certain way. Does that make sense? Yes.
My name is Juan Glover, and my question is simply this age matter. So if I was speaking in front of this room, there are not, a lot of people at this conference aren't like 24. So speaking to a room with more experience, more likely experience, will they receive, or the technique to enable you to be able to translate your story to what they can relate to
Did you get what he said? He said, I'm only 24. People here have more experience than me. They have more knowledge than me. Would they be able to relate to my story?
Yes.
Everybody say absolutely. Absolutely. Because the best way to be a human, relate to a human being is to be one. And so it's not going to come down to how old you are. It's going to come down to the truth you tell or the experience you create with the story. Because we're experience creators. And at 24, you've been through some things in your life already, haven't you? So tell me one.
Okay, I was talking to Dr. Abraham about this a little bit before this special. In the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a stroke, a 3 brain surgery. So that's kind of my story, to leverage it, to help other people get over it.
That is your story.
Yeah.
That is your story.
But I may know someone who has gone through that, and they're not walking, talking, living, breathing, like you sitting right here framing like that. So, son, you do have a story.
Right. And you don't have to go through the same story. That's called a bridge, because a bridge is the way you bring them into the story, even if it's not the same thing. Yes, Doctor.
The question that I was interested in what you said, the connection. When he told me the story, I didn't say, "Are you afraid? What did you do when you came out of surgery?"
Right.
That was what I wanted to know.
Yeah, and what did you do? Huh?
No, that's not what you told me. I said, I said, "Oh, what did you feel? What did you do?" This is what this young man said.
Yeah.
I was more concerned about my parents and my family, so I could not fall apart because they would. And I sat there looking at him.
Watch this. Watch this. Watch out now. Everybody say, it's not about you.
It's not about you.
I remember having a stroke. And I've heard of strokes. I've heard of heart attacks. I've heard of all those things. I want to be honest with you. I thought they were for me. I was just a kid. And I don't know if you know what it's like to all of a sudden get dizzy, all of a sudden to feel like you can't stand up and have no idea of what it's like, and then to fall down or to hit the ground. Maybe you haven't fell down or hit the ground because you had a stroke. Maybe you fell down or hit the ground because the love of your life, you lost it. Or maybe you didn't lose the love of your life. You lost the love for life.
And that's why Les Brown didn't tell you what to talk about.
Listen.
So when he told me that, I was stunned. Then his boss came by, who was Brent. So I said, "Brent, this is just unbelievable. I'm talking to Juan." And then Brent, who's a strong Negro, well, he just pulled me away because after the surgery, I go to his room, and this is Brent. I go to his room, and he has this thing wrapped around his arm, and it's around his neck. And there's his laptop. And he looked up and said to me, "What is the work you want me to do? What can I do?" And Brent said, "I'll just work."
Yeah.
Because he was asking me, what could he do? Because he works for me.
Because it's not about who. It's not about you. But watch this. And so I realize that we're all going to get hit by life. But it's not that you get hit. It's not that you get knocked down. There's a Chinese proverb that says, get knocked down 7 times, stand up 8. So you got to make up in your mind that you're going to stand back up. And so I have a 5-step process of getting back up again. Somebody write this down. Number 1, keep the focus. See, what happens is when you get hit by life, you make the mistake of thinking it's about you, but somebody's watching you. And I knew when I was in that bed that my parents were watching me, my family was watching me, and they got their strength from me. And that when my mom saw me this way, that if I broke down, my mom was breaking down. Because if you're a mother, you know that whatever happens to your children, it happens to you. And so you have to keep your focus. Everybody say keep the focus. Keep the focus. The second thing you have to do is act by faith. See, act by faith.
Yep.
See, here's the problem. Most of us, we say, I'll see it, I'll believe it when I see it. But the truth is, what you gotta say is, you'll see it when you believe it. That even though I was laying in that bed, I wasn't gonna focus on me, I was focused on the new me. I was focused on getting back up again. Yes, I'm down, but I'm not going to stay down. So when my boss walked in the room and he said, what are you doing? I said, wait, I'm trying to figure out what I can do for you. You know why? Because I need some sense of normalcy. The best thing that you can do when you're down is try to put some pieces back together again. Just start acting with faith, acting by faith. Just, you don't know how it's going to work, just take the next step. Dr. King said faith is taking the first step when you can't see the whole staircase. Next thing you have to do is you have to work with the willing. See, there's people, when you tell them what your dreams are, when you tell them what your goals are, if they're not willing to help you do it, that's called dead weight. And so what was great about me being in the hospitals is the recovery nurses and the recovery team and my physical therapists, they knew what my goals were. And they were willing to help me, and they were willing to encourage me. And there's going to be times when you're down, you're going to need somebody to give you those encouraging words. And so you got to work with who?
The willing.
Here's the next thing you have to do is you have to ask for help. Write that down. Everybody say ask for help.
Ask for help.
See, you don't ask for help because you're weak. You ask for help because you're strong, and you want to remain strong. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of 2 things, strength and intelligence. And the last thing is never lose sight of your purpose. See, I knew I was created for a purpose. I knew that this very event in my life was going to change somebody else's life. When they saw me, I knew that one day I'd be able to stand up in front of a crowd, and they would never know what happened to me until I told them. But when I told them, and I told them how I got back up again, and I told them how I was willing to stand again, and I told them how I refused to stay down, it would be the helium to someone's balloon.
Yep.
And so here's what you have to do. You have to never lose sight of what? Of your purpose. And so that's my 5-step process for coming back from tragedy. What was the first one?
Keep the focus.
What was the second one? What was the third one? What was the fifth one? I mean, fourth one? What was the fifth one? Now stand up. Y'all missed it. Y'all missed it from your boy.
No, that was his.
Boom.
That was his.
That's his name. Was K? What was the first one? K. Keep the focus. A. What was the second one? What was W? What was A? What was N? This is what I see. It's not a game. I'm never going to be stumped on the stage.
Man, let me pull up Facebook Live. Do that one more time.
This is not a game. See, that's what I train you to do in real time. See, this is just technique. We all can do that. Everybody say all. We all can do that. It's just training. That's real. Yeah, he'll tell you. Yeah, of course, these are his principles. See, now watch this. Now let me show you how powerful this is. When he spoke, do you ever think he would forget his principles? No. See, that's why I help you create the narrative, because it's your narrative, not my narrative. It's his story.
That's your platform.
So you see what I'm saying? That's why I work with people to help you build your platform, your narrative, because there's no way you can forget who you are when you stand up there. It's your narrative. Now you just build in the techniques, and I teach you the technique. Y'all see how this works? Because that is, did y'all feel like that was impactful?
Yes.
That's impactful. Was anybody impacted by that?
Yeah.
You understand? That's what we have the ability to do. And it worked, this was so powerful. It works in a group or one-on-one. And so if I was working with them, I'd tell them the same thing. Well, I'll take one last question because I don't know how long. Yes, sir.
I just,
Yeah. He said he speaks to kids.
They're going to 9th and 10th.
Yes, sir.
They were 12 years. After we sound like, shut up. How do you think?
Oh, no, listen what he said. He said he was speaking to kids in high school.
No, I was actually in college and they going to 9th and 10th.
Oh, he was in college speaking to kids in 9th and 10th grade.
Yeah.
And he says, how do you relate to them? How do you, get them involved? He said they were cutting up and acting a fool, and he was telling them, what'd you tell them?
Shut up.
Right. So let me help you. Is that gonna work? So everybody say technique.
Technique.
So there's just techniques. The reason they were acting full cutting up because you didn't have them doing anything. Number one, don't let what you want to say get in the way of what they need to hear. There's something that they need to hear. And what were you talking to them about? He said he was talking to the 9th and 10th graders about real estate. Do they feel, even if they needed to hear it, do they feel like they need to hear it?
No.
No. But I went in to talk to a group of 9th and 10th graders. And they were talking and they brought me up. And when I walked up, I said, Bobby Jackson! A kid I went to high school with. One night got mad at a club and killed 3 people. Already. See, because I got to get something to get their attention right now. Now let me tell you about Bobby. He was all state in track, all state in football, all state in wrestling. Let me say that again. All state in track, all state in football, all state in wrestling. Now, even though he was all state, he's at the state penitentiary. Everybody say attitude problem.
Attitude problem.
Can I do that? I got him right away. So what you have to do is you have to get them involved. I gave them a hook. Right now I got to get them involved and I got to get their attention because that got their attention. Now, could I talk to them about real estate? Of course I could. But I can't talk to them until I get their attention and they have to have a respect for what I'm saying. So I'm going to hit him with Bobby Johnson. I'm saying, you know, one of the biggest mistakes he made is he didn't understand how powerful he was. He didn't understand the possibility for his life. I'm never going to tell you to pull your pants up. My name is Ruben and I'm helping you pull your dreams up. When I do that, your pants are going to come up automatically. Anybody want to be a millionaire? Let me tell you how you can do that through real estate.